and shift their strategy. So there are ones that they will keep to themselves, but I want him to answer that something is being done or something is not being done about corruption. Over to you. That is your last question. That is his last question, please.
The essence of changing currency is to control monetary policies and transactions in between countries. If today US can just make a pronouncement that we are going to change the color of dollar, everybody is going to bring out his dollar. This is a crude way of doing it. Nigeria today needs a drastic measures to take us out of the current situation. The long-term issues, sir. The long-term measures is that Nigeria must do everything possible to encourage local production, particularly in the area of mining, agriculture, and other non-related areas. 1. 2.
They mention it. They mention it.
Very good.
They have mentioned it. The budget mentioned it.
That is very good. 2, sir.
Excuse me, Honorable Jaha. If there was a question he missed, say, oh, that is what they gave to us, we'll work with it. No. You can also go to them and say, in a joint committee,
yes, we don't think that this is the right decision, yes, because you are collaborating efficiently. That was why I raised that question. I think enough about that. I think you've covered all the grounds, right? Thank you very much. You can take your seat. Was that we were going back to doing what we are meant to do. Finish. Nothing more.
Okay, so you just publish what you were given. You publish it based on what the fiscal policy reflected. Because you are throwing it back to the Minister of Finance.
Yes.
That is a policy from...
No, Mr. Speaker. Anything to do with preventing somebody from trading in any form is for the fiscal to worry about. It is not for us to do their job. It's not. It's wrong for us to have said 41 items are banned. It's wrong. And
okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You see, that was why we...
When this government or this CBN lifted that restriction, what we want to understand, or Nigerians want to understand, are these people coming through the CBN to get foreign exchange to import these things that you have lifted? It's not about, I'm not talking about the trade. I'm talking about foreign exchange sourcing. What is the rationale? What is importers? Which the previous government came and met and they said no.
Order, order please, order in the House.
I think it's very important to understand that Central Bank does not have responsibility to determine who imports and who does not import. It's not our remit. It is not. And for that reason, we want to ensure that we abide by our remit, okay? And if there's an issue with respect to who can import and who can't import, those are all trade issues. They do not. It's not for us to now say.
I think it's not more of who can import, what should be imported and what should not. I think that's what Honorable Sada is.
And I will just remind. This is not, we didn't change any plan. It's always been like this. We didn't touch any plan. All we have done is implement what is there. For example, because you asked the question, now for example, our banking supervision department, okay, much of that is based in Lagos by virtue of the fact that the banks are in Lagos. Like now, we had a situation where there's need to increase the surveillance on the banking system, especially at a time like this. And it is just appropriate that the banking supervision department is close to where the banking system is. And it works very well, extremely well. For example, I can tell you that I flew out to Lagos just for one day yesterday to talk to the Banking Supervision Department as they were about to commence the process of visiting the banks, and give them a pep talk as to the things to bear in mind as they commence that process. And to be honest, I think in terms of relationships, it also works very well, because where they are closer to the banks, they get to hear what is going on, they can interact with others that interact with those banks and be better for it. So from that perspective, I think that explains that.
So that is on the basis of efficiency, yeah?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
And it's cheaper. And it's cheaper.
All right. No point of order when he's speaking. We have a guest. It's not your standard plenary section. We have a guest. No point of order when the guest is addressing us. So round up, Honorable Governor,
right,
please.
Okay. Well, I think
you've touched on all the issues.
Yes, I think there was an issue of dollar. Well, that's been. There's a very important issue that came up, which may slightly relate to what I just said. Why is central bank reluctant to wield the big stick on banks? I want to assure you that I have no reluctance to wield the big stick on anybody that we regulate. I have none. I have absolutely none. This is the time when people and entities that we regulate must comply. They must do the right thing. And we will stop at nothing in wielding the big hammer, the big stick, whatever we want to call it, but ensuring that they do the right thing and that they work in the interests of Nigeria.
So what you are saying is that the unreasonable deductions will be stopped?
Unreasonable deductions.
From the account. That's the question they asked. They said Sunday deduction.
Yes.
Gentleman, an honorable colleague asked the question here.
Yes.
Sunday deduction. That was the word he used. Yeah, that is Honorable Lesson.
No, you did.
Are you saying if they are unreasonable deduction that the central bank is going to see that will stop that?
Definitely.
Nigerians would like to hear that.
No, definitely. There's a process, and once it's brought to our attention, we investigate it, and we will come down on any of the erring banks. We are definitely going to do that. In fact, some of our departments in the central bank are being strengthened to be able to carry out greater surveillance and oversight on the banks.
Thank you. I think we'll leave it at that, Governor. And you have done it so far. We're only running up in a few minutes. Let us sustain it till the end. Thank you very much. And I'm proud of you. In some part of the headquarters to Lagos. Is it a politically influenced decision or cost effectiveness strategic action?
Sure.
That people need to hear it. What is it about?
Yes.
Is it political so that they can educate their constituents?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. To answer, quite frankly, nothing political about it. Let me be upfront about that. Absolutely nothing political about it. The central bank has branches all over the country. It has branches in every single state of the federation. And there's a need to calibrate strengths and resources between the various parts of the federation. That's basically it. In certain parts, and it's the same in the United States, absolutely no different. Where you are getting information and statistics in one part of the country, it is good to have people who have the skills and are bringing in the results for the bank. So this is a tool whereby we're able to rebalance our skills around the country.
What specific departments are you moving to Lagos?
I'll tell you. In the case,
members, you have been so dignified.
Potencies. And as I said, to emphasize again, I'm very, very positive of the future in the foreign exchange market for Nigeria. And going forward, we will definitely use this opportunity to engage a lot better. And it's very important because our monetary policy committee, for example, our monetary policy, it is important to be able to communicate to the outside world what we are doing. And in that process, the House of Rep is a very critical voice that will be like an interlocutor between us and the people out in the constituencies. We recognize that, and we will do everything possible to make use of this particular body.
Thank you very much. There's a question that you have not addressed from Ali.
To say that monetary policy tools can only take us so far. The idea is not to rely on monetary policy tools. Monetary policy tools have a way of moderating a situation where the macroeconomic variables are getting imbalanced. The monetary policy tools on their own are not sufficient, and neither should they be considered as long-term to be reliant on. They cannot be. They help a situation stabilize, but ultimately it requires the work of the fiscal. And that is why it is so important that both the fiscal and the monetary must work hand in hand. We have absolutely no doubt in our minds that the monetary doing it all on its own will not work. We have no doubt about that. So let me be very clear on that. That's not the idea. The idea is to at least be able to buy time and give relief to the system while the other inefficiencies or things that are not working as effectively as they should now kick in.
So is there collaboration with you and the Minister of Finance in seeing that fiscal and monetary policies align in tackling this inflation? Is it there?
Yes, it is. And for the avoidance of doubt, because this is very important, I know many times the question is asked about the relationship between the Ministry of Finance and the central bank, which is very important. And to answer that question before I say something else, we already have joint committees that meet on a very, very regular basis to look at these issues in a harmonized manner. That's one. Some of you.
Honorable colleagues, this is a dignified, sacred house. You should allow the minister to answer the questions, please. The governor, please. The governor.
So we already have committees that work very, very close together to harmonize positions that are being taken. And of course, on the board of the central bank, there's strong representation from the fiscal side. So we ensure that at all times that collaboration is in check and is working smoothly. And where I was going to was, apart from the Ministry of Finance, it is also important that the central bank collaborates with other entities of government. Okay, for example, now we spoke about the NMPC, that NMPC moving its accounts towards the central bank also makes for greater collaboration between the two. And Mr. President's directive that all MDAs should have their accounts with the central bank, I think also speaks volumes of the kind of collaboration that is anticipated between the two. So that, I believe, is something that we're looking to strengthen. And I'm sure that the Minister of Finance will say something more about that from his perspective. But that's definitely an area that we are all very, very, we all do what we can to ensure it works smoothly. Then, in another issue that came up was the issue of development finance. And the question was, or the observation was that the use of development finance have brought stability, especially in the agri sector in the past. And would the central bank be looking at reforming this or not? And the answer to that is yes. We are of the opinion that the central bank will not be involved in direct interventions. We have nothing against interventions, but we will not be involved in direct interventions. The idea is to partner, and where we have institutions that can do it effectively, judiciously, we support them. The point is that Nigeria cannot afford failed interventions. And we as central bank do not have the capacity to engage in what will ultimately lead in failed interventions. Our focus is inflation management, price stability. And that is why we have taken the view that we will de-emphasize these other issues that do not take the final goal of price stability and lead us there. We must. So for that reason, we've refocused our whole efforts to ensure that we live and sleep on the issue of price.
So are you giving any hope to Nigerians today with regards to the dollars, to the dollars exchange rate?
The exchange rate? Yes. I think to be okay. Back to the issue. The main issue has been liquidity. I think we all know this. There's been very little liquidity in the market. We took certain measures to bring liquidity back into the market, both with banks and non-bank actors. We did that. And the result of that is already showing. You see, the mere fact that I said that liquidity has gone up to $844 million as at yesterday is testimony to that. And I'm confident that we are headed in the right direction, and these things will moderate and find their own level. The distortions in the foreign exchange market over a period of time has created, in my view, an artificially high rate. And now that we've removed most of those distortions, we see a situation where those who stayed out of the market are now coming back in, and the concept of willing buyer and willing seller is beginning to realize the objectives as they were set out for in the first place. So I have no doubt in my mind that on the foreign exchange side, we are headed in the right direction. I have no doubt about that in my mind.
I like the conviction on your face. Yeah. You're very sure what you're saying. And that is what Nigerians need to see. And let me ask you, why is it that you've not initiated the engagement with the parliament as allowed by the CBN Act? You see why they are raising all their hands?
Yes.
It's because they have piled questions that have been unanswered because of that lack of engagement. Yes. Are you planning to activate that part of the Act to periodically engage with the House to update them on what you are doing so that they will be carried along? Yes.
No, and to be frank, this is Mr. Speaker, this is an excellent observation. Let me say something though. This has been a particularly difficult few months where we had to really double down and understand what was going on, some of which is very complicated, and we had to take our time to unbundle a lot of things and try certain things, discard others, and some of the circulars that we brought out a number of circulars in the past week.
He's answering the question as to whether he will be interacting with you as allowed by the CBN Act. It is important that we hear him, honorable colleagues, please. Thank you.
And some of the circulars that we have brought out, they take a lot of time to come to a final stage, a lot of time. So there was not, put in one form, a lot of work has been work in progress. It has been work in progress.
In line with the prevailing economic situation. This is some of the things they are trying to capture in the varieties of the questions that they are asking around inflation. So let's hear specifically. Nigerians want to know what measures.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mrs. And also, I mentioned the issue of the volume of transactions. And I think a lot of the questions have been directed at the concern, rightly too, of the liquidity of the foreign exchange market. The liquidity of the foreign exchange market for quite a while has been less than satisfactory, as a result of which the central bank has rolled out certain policies to ease that. That includes the need for the banks to maintain less of an open position or no position in certain circumstances. It has also included the whole issue of IMTOs having access to a free, transparent market whereby the volume of transactions that used to go to other places now goes officially within the system. So that and a whole host of other measures to ensure that we have transparency in that market and increase the volume of transactions that go through, which a number of questions have tried to find answers to. We are happy, as I said, to inform you that $844 million was the volume of transactions that were done as at the close of business yesterday. This is the first time in a very long time that we've had those volume of transactions. Who the beneficiaries are, I don't know, because it's not, it doesn't come from the central bank. And this is a good news, quite frankly. It's good news that there's sufficient enough investor confidence returning back to the market for people to feel comfortable to do that volume of transactions. That's the good news. So I think it's something that we should be pleased about, and it's something that we expect will continue to get better as the reform process continues to gather steam. A question was asked with respect to NMPC's money coming in. Has the NMPC's money come in? And the answer to that is the NMPC has commenced the process of moving the accounts and opening accounts with the central bank, and that process continues very positively. So the answer to that is yes. Now, I said something again, maybe I should restate it a bit. With respect to medical and education, I'm not by any means casting any aspersion on anything or any business segment. I'm not. Basically, what I was saying is I felt it was necessary for us all to understand what the nature of the contributions towards limited dollar inflows and great dollar outflows were. One of the great dollar outflows over the recent past has been medical and education and a whole host of others. But all I was trying to illustrate is that we also need to have an attitudinal shift. That attitudinal shift to start to benefit our local economy, whereby we buy locally and we patronize local production. Because if we do not put these numbers into the context I gave you, that the importance of this may be lost. And basically what I was saying is that within a certain period of time, between spending on medical and education in overseas countries, the amount spent, which was estimated at about 40 billion US dollars, was equivalent to our reserves. And that's shocking, to be quite honest. That is very shocking. And I think these are things that we all need to just take a look and think about how we can benefit and strengthen the Naira from having more local production and using the local alternatives that we may have. So that is a wake-up call, as far as I can see. It's a wake-up call. Inflation, naturally, a constantly recurring theme everywhere, and understandably, we're all very concerned, and I know that honorable members having very, very strong connections with their constituents must be inundated with worries and calls. That is what one would expect. And just to say here that, because it's important at this stage, again, in my view, to ask ourselves, to just take a look and ask ourselves, how did we get here? And I think some of those questions have also been posed by some that raise these concerns. How did we get to where we are? A situation where inflation has spiraled the way it is, etc., etc. Now, part of that, as I'm sure we all know, is money supply. As long as we have...
Excuse me, Governor, please. I just want to interject there.
Yes.
When you were addressing the issue of inflation, Nigerians would like to know more, because as of December 2023, we were at 28.9%. I think 28.92%. And this is significantly impacting on Nigeria's purchasing power and economic well-being. And you know, cost push factor dominates. High energy costs, transportation costs, decline in agricultural productivity due to insecurity, and exchange rate fluctuation. You will agree with me that if the members here are thinking in this direction, they are right, that there is an over-reliance on monetary policy through increasing the MPR, monetary policy rate. And if we continue in that trajectory, there is this risk that there will be further economic slowdown and debt accumulation. So what is worrying these members is that, given the limitation of these various monetary policies in addressing this cost push inflation, what other alternatives or complementary strategies is the CBN considering to combat the inflation? In specific terms, they want to hear that. And whether there are
interrelate. And of course, some of them really don't relate to the central bank. I think we're at the stage today where everybody believes that central bank has the answer to all the problems. I would perhaps again just reiterate something that I think is very, very important. And that is to say that over the recent past, we find that a lot of the measures that have been rolled out to turn the very challenging situation around are beginning to yield fruit. They are beginning to yield fruit. You find that, and I said this in my presentation, that a lot of the rating agencies have rated Nigeria positive. They've moved from being stable to positive. And that is a very, very good sign indeed. In addition to that is also the issue of...
Order, please, order.
The governor must be heard in silence so that we can, establish if he's addressing our issues or not. Please, let's not interrupt him, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next will be Minister of Finance, so get ready with your questions.
Mark Eset is my name, representing Uyo, Oran, Senatai, and Ibesi and Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. The CBN governor, 2 questions in one. Number 1, this issue of Sunday debit in Nigerians' accounts every Sunday with the hardship being experienced, what is it for? It's not done by the banks, it's a directive from the federal government. Sunday debit. 2, with all the questions, you can see the temper, the interest of members being expressed in the questions. In one specific statement, I want you to tell Nigerians when the renewed hope and the promised hope will be felt in this country. Thank you.